There is a version of you that insecure people cannot touch, not because you are cold, not because you are distant, not because you have learned to intimidate people or shut them out or walk around with a hard face and a warning energy. None of that. The version of you that insecure people cannot touch is simply the version of you that is fully at home in yourself. So settled, so clear, so genuinely okay with who you are, that there is nothing loose for them to pull on. Insecure people do not actually go after strong people. They go after exposed places, soft spots, gaps in your confidence, wounds you have not fully healed, places where you still need something from other people's opinions. Close those gaps, not with walls, but with genuine healing, and most of what insecure people throw at you simply stops landing. That is what this video is about. And before we go into the steps, I want to ask you something. Think of the last time someone insecure got under your skin, not just bothered you, actually got inside your head, stayed there, made you doubt yourself, made you want to explain, defend, prove, or disappear. What was it that let them in? I want you to sit with that, honestly, because the answer is going to matter as we go through this. Drop it in the comments if you want. What did they say or do that actually landed? Was it a criticism, a dismissal, a comparison, a cold silence? Something they implied about your worth? Because here is what Carl Jung understood, that most people never teach you. Insecure people do not hurt you with their weapons. They hurt you by finding the places where you have not yet fully accepted yourself. Then they press there, sometimes without even realizing they are doing it. Which means the most powerful thing you can do is not to fight them, not to avoid them, not to out-intimidate them. It is to become someone who has no unhealed soft spots left for them to find. I am going to tell you how to do that. And by the end of this video, I want to show you something that is going to reframe this whole conversation. Something that most people do not expect when they click on a title like this. Stay with me. Let's get into it. 1. Stop needing their approval, including their disapproval. Here is something that most people do not realize. You can be just as controlled by someone's disapproval as you are by their approval. Both of them are forms of needing something from them. When you need someone to approve of you, they have power over you. You change your behavior to earn their positive reaction. You shrink, you perform, you present, you edit yourself. But when you need someone to not disapprove of you, when their criticism bothers you, when their silence disturbs you, when you lie awake replaying what they said, that is also them having power over you. Different direction, same leash. Insecure people are very good at sensing both kinds of need. They can feel when you are performing for their approval. They know when their opinion matters to you. And they use that, not always on purpose. Sometimes just because they can feel the opening and something in them cannot resist pressing on it. The first step to becoming untouchable is not to become impressive or intimidating. It is to genuinely stop needing the reaction. Either reaction, good or bad. That sounds simple, but it is not easy, because most of us have been trained from childhood to pay attention to how other people see us. That training runs deep. Jung talked about something he called the persona, the version of yourself you built to get approval from the people around you when you were growing up. The good student, the likable one, the responsible one, the one who never made trouble, the one who was easy to manage. That persona is not bad. It helped you survive. It helped you fit in. It served a real purpose. But if you are still running the same persona in adulthood, still editing yourself to manage other people's reactions, you are going to be vulnerable to anyone who threatens to withdraw their approval. And insecure people threaten that constantly, through criticism, through cold silence, through comparison, through backhanded compliments, through making you feel like you are too much, or not enough, or somehow wrong for being who you are. The way out is not to build a bigger, better persona. It is to need the persona less. To get to a place where you know who you are, not because people confirmed it, but because you have done enough internal work that you just know. When you reach that place, criticism still registers. You hear it. But it does not break anything, because there is nothing fragile waiting to be broken. That is the first piece of being untouchable. 2. Know exactly who you are, so nobody can tell you. Insecure people are very comfortable redefining you. They will tell you who you are. They will decide what your success means. They will assign motives to your actions. They will summarize your character. They will tell others what kind of person you are, and if you do not have a clear, settled sense of yourself, their version can start to get inside you. You start wondering if they are right. You start defending yourself to people who were never interested in the truth. You start changing to prove something. You start shrinking so they are less threatened. All of that starts from one place, not knowing yourself clearly enough that their version simply does not fit. Imagine someone walks up to you and insists your name is Michael. And your name is not Michael. You know it is not Michael. You were not born Michael. You have never gone by Michael. There is zero chance you are Michael. You do not get upset about it. You do not spend 3 weeks wondering if maybe you are actually Michael. You do not try to prove to them that you are not Michael. You just know. And so their insistence slides right off. That is what self-knowledge does. It makes other people's definitions of you genuinely difficult to absorb. But most people do not have that level of clarity about themselves. They know some things. They are unsure about others. And in the places where they are unsure, they are vulnerable to anyone who offers a confident opinion, even a wrong one, even a cruel one, because part of them thinks, maybe they see something I don't. Jung spent his entire career on this question. What does it mean to know yourself? Not just your surface preferences, but your real values, your actual strengths, your genuine limits, the things you believe even when no one is watching, the kind of person you are when life gets hard. That kind of self-knowledge takes time. It comes from paying attention to yourself over years, from sitting with discomfort instead of running from it, from being honest with yourself about both what you are good at and what you still need to work on. But when you build it, when you actually know who you are at that level, insecure people lose most of their power over you, because they can only redefine what is undefined, and you are not undefined anymore. 3. Heal the wounds. You keep letting people press. Here is the honest part. If someone keeps getting under your skin in the same way, the issue is usually not them. It is the wound they keep finding. They say something about your intelligence, and it lands harder than it should, probably because somewhere inside you are still not fully sure of your own intelligence. They dismiss your success, and it bothers you more than it reasonably should, probably because somewhere inside you still need external confirmation that your success is real. They make you feel unwanted, and it stays with you for days, probably because somewhere inside there is an older wound about being wanted, about belonging, about being chosen. Insecure people do not create these wounds. They find wounds that are already there. And the uncomfortable truth is this: as long as those wounds are open, you will keep handing people the ability to hurt you without even trying. A man named James had a habit of getting deeply bothered whenever someone questioned his competence at work. Even small passing comments would set him off internally for days. He would replay them, build responses in his head, feel a burning need to prove himself. He tried everything on the outside. He got better at his job. He built an impressive track record. He learned to respond calmly in the moment, but the wound kept getting pressed. New people, new situations, same sting. Eventually, in therapy, he traced it back. His father had a habit of making him feel like he never quite measured up. not in a dramatic, obvious way, just consistently. And James had carried that quietly for 20 years. Every person who questioned his competence since then was, in some part of his nervous system, his father. Once James understood that, he could start healing the actual wound. Not just managing the reactions, healing the source. And over time, something shifted. The comments still came, but they stopped having the same access. Because the wound they used to find was no longer open in the same way. That is what healing does. It does not make you tougher. It makes you less available to be hurt in that specific place. Look at what insecure people consistently manage to get to you about. That consistency is pointing at something. It is showing you where the wound still lives, not so you can feel bad about having it. Everybody has wounds. You are not broken for having them, but so you can start giving them the real attention they need, instead of just managing the surface reactions every time someone finds them. Because healed wounds are not soft spots, and insecure people cannot press what is no longer soft. 4. Stop explaining yourself to people who are not listening. This one saves enormous energy. When insecure people come at you, with criticism, with accusations, with passive comments, with dismissals, the instinct is to explain yourself, to clarify, to correct the record, to prove you are not what they are implying, to make them understand. But here is what is actually happening in most of those situations. They are not confused about you. They are not genuinely asking for clarity. They are pressing somewhere they think might react. And your explanation is the reaction they were looking for. Every time you explain, you confirm that their opinion of you matters enough to respond to. You give them a seat at the table of your self-worth. You hand them the pen and let them write in your story. And they feel that, not always consciously, but something in the dynamic confirms their power in that moment. People who are genuinely secure do not explain themselves to people who are not honestly asking. They say something. They live how they live. If someone has a real honest concern, they address it. But if someone is just pressing to see if they can get a reaction, they get nothing. Not rudeness, not hostility, just nothing. That nothing is one of the most powerful responses available to you. A woman named Amara learned this slowly, through years of trying to make a difficult co-worker understand her. The co-worker was consistently dismissive, would make comments in meetings, would question Amara's ideas in ways that felt pointed, would sometimes act like Amara was not in the room. To fix it through explanation, she would clarify her position. She would address the comments directly. She would try to have honest conversations about the dynamic. She would send follow-up emails making sure her thinking was represented clearly, and none of it worked, because explanation was never what the situation required. Eventually, Amara stopped. She stopped explaining. She stopped following up. She stopped trying to make the coworker see her clearly. She just did her work. She let her work speak. And when the coworker made a comment, Amara looked at her briefly, said nothing, and moved on. Within 2 months, the coworker had almost entirely stopped engaging with her, because there was nothing to engage with. The reaction that the behavior was designed to produce had disappeared. And without the reaction, the behavior had no purpose. That is what happens when you stop explaining yourself to people who are not listening. You remove the reward, and without the reward, insecure behavior usually finds a different target. 5. Be so rooted in your own life that other people's opinions become background noise. Most people live with too much of their attention pointed outward. They are watching how people respond to them, reading the room constantly, adjusting based on what they sense from others, keeping a quiet running record of who seems to like them and who seems not to. That outward orientation is not always bad. Being socially aware matters. Understanding the people around you matters. But when it becomes the primary way you understand yourself, when you need other people's reactions to know how you are doing, you are permanently vulnerable. Because other people's reactions change all the time, for reasons that have nothing to do with you. Someone is in a bad mood. Someone is going through something. Someone is threatened by you. Someone just had a hard morning. And if their coldness or their criticism lands on you and becomes data about your worth, you are living on shaky ground. The goal is to be so rooted in your own sense of yourself, your values, your work, your relationships, your daily life, that what comes from outside lands more lightly, not because you stop caring about people, but because you have a stable enough center that fluctuations at the edge do not shake the whole thing. Think of a tree in wind. A tree with shallow roots moves a lot in a strong wind. It bends dramatically. In a bad enough storm, it comes down. But a tree with deep roots, it moves. The branches move, the leaves move. But the tree itself holds, because the foundation goes deep enough that surface disturbance cannot pull it over. That is what rootedness looks like in a person. You can feel the wind. You can notice the insecure comment, the dismissal, the cold energy, the passive competitive remark. You are not numb to it, but it does not move your center. It does not reach the roots. How do you build roots like that? You invest in your actual life, not your image, not what others think of your life, the actual thing, your work, your craft, your relationships, your health, the way you spend your mornings, what you believe and why, what you are building and for what reason, the kind of person you are trying to become. When those things are real and growing and genuinely yours, not performed for an audience but lived, they create weight, substance, groundedness. And insecure people, who are very often rootless themselves, who spend enormous energy monitoring other people's reactions because their own center is not stable, they can feel when they are in the presence of someone who does not need them to feel okay. And that feeling for them is the end of the interaction. They move on. Not always immediately, but they move on. Because there is nothing available here. The ground will not shift, no matter how hard they press. 6. Understand what they are actually doing and stop taking it personally. This is the shift that changes everything. When insecure people come at you with criticism, competition, dismissal, cold behavior, backstabbing, passive aggression, it feels personal. It feels like it is about you. But most of the time it is not about you at all. Jung spent decades explaining this. He said that when people react strongly to someone with envy, resentment, hostility, dismissal, they are almost never really reacting to that person. They are reacting to what that person reflects back at them. Your confidence reminds them of their own lack of confidence. Your growth reminds them of what they have not been willing to do. Your peace reminds them of how unsettled they feel. Your happiness reminds them of their own unhappiness. Your success reminds them of their own excuses. You are not doing anything to them. You are just living. But your living holds up a mirror, and they do not like what the mirror shows them. So they attack the mirror. They try to tilt it. They try to crack it. They try to prove the reflection is wrong. That is what most insecure behavior actually is. Not a statement about you, a reaction to themselves. Once you understand that, really understand it, not just intellectually, but feel the truth of it, something changes in how their behavior lands on you. It stops feeling like an attack. It starts feeling like information about them. A man named Kevin used to get very bothered by a family member who consistently dismissed his achievements. New job, dismissed. New project, dismissed. New relationship, dismissed. The family member always had something slightly undermining to say, always a small cut hidden in a casual sentence. Kevin spent years trying to earn this person's acknowledgement. years trying to reach them, years feeling hurt and confused when the same dismissal kept arriving. Then one day Kevin asked himself a different question. Not, why won't they acknowledge me, but what does my success remind them of that they cannot face? And the answer, when Kevin really thought about it, was clear. The family member had stopped trying for themselves a long time ago, had made peace with a smaller life than they had once wanted. And every time Kevin succeeded at something, it brought that reality back up. Not because Kevin was showing off, just because Kevin was moving. The dismissal was not about Kevin's success, it was about the family member's grief over their own. Once Kevin saw that, the behavior stopped landing the same way. He still noticed it. He still found it unpleasant. But it no longer felt like a verdict on his worth. It felt like someone struggling with something that had nothing to do with him. And that reframe, that simple shift in understanding, was the beginning of Kevin becoming genuinely untouchable to this person. Because you cannot be hurt by a verdict that is not about you. Here is the thing I planted at the very beginning. Most people click on a title like this expecting a list of techniques. Ways to project confidence. Ways to shut people down. Ways to build a wall around yourself that insecure people cannot get past. But that is not what this has been about. Everything in this video, stopping the need for approval, knowing yourself clearly, healing your wounds, not explaining yourself, building real roots, understanding what insecure behavior actually is, all of it points at one thing, not armor, not dominance, not a performance of strength, wholeness. The most untouchable person is not the one who is the most guarded. It is the one who is the most complete. The one who has genuinely done the internal work, who knows who they are, who has healed what needed healing, who is rooted in a real life that is genuinely theirs, who does not need other people's reactions to feel okay about themselves. That person is not cold. In fact, they are often warmer than most. Because when you are not constantly protecting yourself from other people's opinions, you can actually relax in their presence. You can be genuinely curious about them. You can hear their criticism without it becoming a crisis. You can watch their insecure behavior with something closer to compassion than defensiveness, because you understand what it is. Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming more fully yourself. Not a better version of what other people want you to be. Not a harder, more defended version of who you were, but more completely, authentically you. And when that process is genuinely underway, when you are moving toward it, even imperfectly, even slowly, you start to notice something. The things that used to get to you stop getting to you as much. The people who used to feel threatening feel smaller. The opinions that used to feel essential feel optional. Not because you have become arrogant or indifferent, because you have become more real, and real is very hard to mess with. Go back to what you thought of at the start. The last time someone insecure got under your skin, what was it they found? What was the open place they pressed? Because that open place is not your weakness. It is your next piece of work. The thing that, once you address it, closes a door that has been letting too much in. That is what becoming untouchable actually looks like. Not louder, not harder. Not more defended, more whole. Tell me in the comments, which of these 6 felt most true for where you are right now? Which one are you still working on? Because I think that conversation is going to be worth having. If this gave you something to sit with, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.